What is up? Welcome to Etsy Jam, episode number 66. Would you believe that you could land more sales at your shop just by having a more positive outlook? This week, we chat with Mavis Stevens from MissMavisFunHouse. She tells us how having a more positive outlook completely shifted the success of her shop. Mavis also talks about consistency, photos, meeting her assistant in a cemetery, showing gratitude, and more. What is up? Welcome to Etsy Jam, the show where we have vibrant conversations about serious topics. I am Gordon from Marmalead.
And I am Richie from Marmalead. And if you don't yet know what Marmalead is, it's the best Etsy SEO and market research tool for serious sellers. Now, you might even be thinking, what is Etsy SEO? Or maybe you know what it is, but you're like, that's just really not my strong suit. I'm not that technical. And that's perfectly fine, because really, the only prerequisite for Marmalead is being serious about your Etsy shop, and we'll kind of handle the rest for you about getting you up to speed. So go check out Marmalead at marmalead.com, which is MARMALEAD.com.
And we have a very special guest with us this week. We have Mavis Stevens with us. Thank you so much for joining us, Mavis.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Mavis is from, her Etsy shop name is Miss Mavis Funhouse. That's MISSMAVIS Funhouse, just like it sounds. Richie inspired me with the spelling of Marmalade to spell that one out for everyone, in case I wasn't pronouncing it right. But we're so happy to have you with us. Mavis has such a fantastic backstory with, handmade crafting, art, selling handmade things, and then getting into the online space. And so we're excited to walk through that with you, Mavis.
Well, thank you. Well, you wanted me to go into a little of my backstory. I started knitting the night Neil Armstrong landed on the moon. There was a whole group of people had gathered around, as everybody did. And I was, my mother was like, had my head like, you must watch the TV. This is history. And I'm like, I must watch what you were doing with your knitting needles. And, and that we were all looking at Neil Armstrong as he stepped out of the lunar module, and we were like, oh my gosh, is he going to sink into the moon? Yeah. Is it going to be like cream cheese? Is he going to spontaneously combust? And I'm like, knit one, purl two. And that's kind of became my life. And it sort of spawned on from there. I've never not had a fiber art project going on. And also, about the same time, I grew up until I was 9 years old, the very, very early childhood in Americus, Georgia. And there was an artist there called Eddie Owen Martin, Saint Emo, and he was like a real hippie in 1969. And so between the time that I learned how to knit and seeing him in his colors and his wonderfulness, and he was just like nobody knew what to do with it. And, some people loved him, some people were afraid of him. And he inspired me to be an artist. And so I just kind of was so blessed and two together, fiber and my love of folk art, my love of art. And that's how I got to be what I am. And how I found my art and my medium and my passion. And when I was in the ninth grade, there was a local craft show. By then we had moved to Warner Robins, Georgia. And there was a local craft show, and my cousin was trying to get my mother to do it. And I said, heck, I want to do it. So I applied and got in, and I was only 15 years old, and my father had to drive me. I couldn't drive, and we went through like this little way into the property of the festival. And I told myself, whatever it takes, this is going to be my life. And I've stuck with it. I've had very few. Well, I've had part-time jobs, but it's never, ever been, thank goodness for the new term side hustles. I've had a few side hustles, but very few, and I've been very blessed. It went on from there, and, that's how it started. And I absolutely, positively love this business. And I am so incredibly grateful that in the last, I don't know how many years, 20-ish years, the internet has long. It's made life so good. And in the last few months for me, I guess about 4, you guys have come along. And so, yeah, there's part of my backstory.
That's fantastic. When you were getting started with this, in junior high school, were your friends and peers doing this too, or was this just something you did for fun on your own?
Absolutely not. And nobody knew exactly what to do with me. I skipped school a lot, and I was like part of they called it work release back then, where you could leave school and actually go work, and I worked for myself. And no one knew exactly what to do, teach me what to do with me. I was not a bad kid. I never have ever done drugs. I was a kid. I just stayed at home and made art and sold it. And I was doing shows and making really good money, and really helping out. Had a wonderful dad who supported the family really well, but the money I was making, helping out, it was really great. And had a lot of teachers that didn't know what to do with me. And I had one teacher, as I put in my notes, and I would not name her because I had many wonderful teachers. I don't want to single anybody out. And she was like, she would be there, and she would look at, she'd be like, not say a word, but she'd, tell us with mental telepathy, they would say, go, Mavis, go with the art. Don't worry about the school, just go with the art. And, I had a lot of support. I had parents that really were behind me and supported me, and they were non-traditionalist, and they got what I was doing. And I think they probably knew it was no backlash either. I mean, there was no way, there was nothing they were going to do to change my mind. And I was well established by the time I graduated from high school. And this is not to say that every single year and every single moment of my life I've made great money, because there's been some times when the money was really, 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 really tight. But and a lot of that has been alleviated through being online. So I think that's kind of sums up my younger years. But I have an absolute passion for what I do, and I'm going to make it happen one way or another. I'll find the avenue. I always have.
It's easy to get that sense just listening to you kind of recount all of these things. That definitely comes through in the way you talk about this. And the fact that you skipped school to work on art is awesome. I was just thinking, what do her teachers think? Do they just think she's like
I'm not endorsing skipping school. Well, but the problem is that the problem was I wasn't misguided. I was like the person that never caused any trouble. And, I never caused any trouble. And, other kids that were skipping school were out like fighting or drugging or whatever. And I wasn't. I was just making art. And they just really turned a blind eye. I actually got a diploma. I don't know how, but I actually did get a diploma. And I do, it was that work thing, but I was working for myself. But the teachers were loving it. I mean, they couldn't really say how much they were loving it, but and they were great. All along, every step of the way, I have had the most amazing human beings put in my path, just from the very beginning up until now. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's like, well, we're in a tough spot. She's skipping school, but she's doing so to work, which is kind of the point of going to school in the first place, so you can go work. Yeah. She's not causing any trouble.
No.
But we are teachers, so we probably shouldn't encourage skipping school publicly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a
right.
little dilemma.
And I do believe that I was getting some kind of, like, they made it work somehow where I was getting some kind of credit for it, So.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned your parents were very supportive too. Is this something that they were kind of familiar with, or was it totally foreign to them, but they saw your passion for it and were just totally
it was totally foreign to them, but they saw my passion for it. My mom did sew. She was an excellent seamstress. Mm-hmm. And so that, and she was knitting. I mean, she was the original knitter. So in the scenario, and she had somewhat of a passion for it, but nobody understood what I was doing, and I didn't quite understand what I was doing, but nobody was stopping me, and I knew I couldn't stop. But I had great parents, and I have a great family, and I've had an aunt that was really, really, really over the top supportive. And again, she had no, when you're supporting a young person and you just have no idea what they're doing, it takes a lot of love there. And I was very fortunate when I was a child to have amazing adults around me.
That's awesome. In the story that you sent over to us too, you mentioned
Mm-hmm.
buying this, I don't know what to call it. I guess like a
Well,
part almost
I
that
never
goes
know
on
what to
to
call
your
it.
sewing machine.
It's an attachment.
Okay.
Yeah. It's
And
an attachment.
uh-huh.
Go ahead.
Tell us a little bit more about that. It sounds like it ended up being one of a kind.
It is. I was, of course, always minding my own business. I had figured out how to move from Butler, Georgia to Atlanta, Georgia. And I was just at a mill-end yarn store. I would buy it and make things out of it. That's what I was doing. I was making dolls at the time and doing a lot of hand spinning on the spinning wheel. But I was just right place at the right time again. And these gentlemen walked in with, they actually, I mean, it's very heavy. They rolled this in this machine to try to sell the idea to the owner of the mill-end store. And I saw it and I said, boy, I love this. And I bought it on the spot. And I had to finance it. I was old enough that I should have thought it through. I'm kind of glad I didn't think it through because I still, and I've made a living off of it since 1984. And it cost more than my car at the time. And, I had to go home, and I was old that I didn't have to answer to my parents, but I wasn't smart enough that I had figured out that I didn't have to answer. So I had to go home, and parents had to find out how much I'd paid for this. And then again, you're like, what are we going to do about it? Like, she's going to figure out she's an adult, doesn't have to come to us with everything pretty soon. So we'll just go with it. And it does a one-of-a-kind stitch, and home sewers didn't really want it because it don't a stitch. And so these guys never got it off the ground, but I to my knowledge, I mean, there could be another one out there floating somewhere. To my knowledge, I have the only one in existence, which gives me another gift in this business of a real niche. And I do think my designs are very original too. And again, blessed, lucky, great life all along. And so that's what I use. I've done different things with this machine as far as, what it does is like a faux rug stitch. And I really didn't have this on purpose, but this is behind me as a piece.
Okay.
That I had done out of it. This is a bigger piece. The thing I'm doing right now that I have found that's working well on Etsy is kitchen towels. And I'm embellishing kitchen towels doing with this stitch. And it's washable, and they look like a piece of art. And again, just I'm going to say I didn't completely fall into that one. That took some trial and error. I can do a lot of different things with this machine as far as what I can embellish. And I've embellished a lot of different things, but for right now, this is working. I've got some things in the pipeline that I'm going to be adding. I want to be adding embellishing on aprons. I want to be adding embellishing on ball caps, but that's sort of in the pipeline right now. And throughout my whole art experience, I've kind of found that I feel like I need to narrow down what I'm doing in whatever arena it is. I did like to paint some for a while, but I felt like I didn't want to be a fiber artist and a painter, and I couldn't really marry those two together the way I felt like would be appropriate. So I really made a conscious effort of sticking just with fiber. And as I'm picking my items to sell, and I do, as I put in my notes, sell a lot of wholesale, a lot of wholesale. I try to keep continuity, like learning to do these or getting a rhythm going with these towels, like next, just so I can keep it flowing.
Yeah.
And I think that's real important in a lot of areas of, I guess any business. I mean, this is the only business I know. But I think in any business, finding out what you do well, sticking with it, be broad enough. I mean, don't be so narrow that you don't expand, but expand within what complements. Where there's consistency.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I think that's smart. I was going to ask you too, so it's the only one in existence. Are you the only repair person in existence for it too when it breaks?
That's a good
question.
I've
become the only repair person in existence. I part of it can be worked on by a regular industrial sewing machine person, and it
Okay.
does break. But little by little, I have figured out what they do, and I don't. It's very rare that I actually have to call somebody in. I have a really amazing repair guy now but he hasn't had to come in over a year.
Nice.
Yeah. But I do have to do a lot of repairs. I have, all the tools and everything. So and it does break, but it's funny because as years have gone by, what used to be a catastrophe with something breaking is really just oh shoot, this is taking up 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's gotten easier. And there again, knowing something really, really well.
Yeah.
Knowing a machine and what I'm doing and that one thing really, really well.
Yeah, definitely. So let's talk back to getting your start with. It sounds like you sold handmade for quite a while before you finally started selling online. So the handmade market was no stranger to you. But then when you started to transition to selling online, how did that work? Did you get into Facebook and social media and stuff like that first, or how was that transition for you?
Well, the very first experience with social media. First off, I signed up for MySpace back in the day and never could get logged into it. So it was a little bit, social media is not for me. I mean, I realized that was a long time ago, and I thought, one night, I'm like, what? There's nothing else to do tonight. What's this Facebook thing? And again, I think that was about 9 years ago. What is it? Okay, it's nothing else to do, nothing on TV. Let's see what it is.
Yeah.
So I signed up for it, acquired a few friends, and I acquired, some friends I didn't know, like we all have on Facebook. And one of them was a dear friend who is a really dear friend now, Kathy Hall. Mm-hmm. And a group of us got together and we said, well, let's just sell our art. We would have YART, Y-A-R-T, yard art sales. Cool. And we had a yard sale in our town. I was living in Beaufort, Georgia at the time. And I thought, what? For something to do, I can put this yard sale on Facebook and see what happens. Mm-hmm. And I did. And here comes Kathy Hall driving up with attitude, might I add. And she bought a bunch of stuff from us that day. She has continued to be an amazing patron, an amazing friend, an amazing human being. And she actually now owns a store in Jasper, Georgia, and I've managed her social media for her.
Oh, nice.
So, and when she drove up and bought all that stuff from us that day, and we got to meet her and know her wonderfulness, I thought, there is something to this social media stuff.
Yeah.
There is, this is not a small thing. I didn't realize how big it was going to get, but, and then I went on to take some classes from social media classesonline.com from Maria Piegler. Mm-hmm. And those have been so valuable because as I said in my notes, I don't know if I said earlier in this show or not, that I am not a millennial. None of this stuff comes easy to me. I mean, you guys know I was struggling just to do Skype. I have to be shown what to do. And Maria, her lessons were I could understand them, and so I started selling a lot on Facebook. Mm-hmm. And then when I would have a local event, I would have like a lot of people show up for them because of social media.
Yeah. And
so it became an integral thing. And no art ever sells itself through one thing. I mean, we can't exist on just Facebook. We can't exist on just Etsy. You can't exist on just selling wholesale or just craft shows. You've got to do a little of everything. There's not any one thing, in my opinion, or for me in my life. There's not any one. It's got to be more than just like one thing. So that was my first introduction to social media, and it really has grown as far as tremendously as far as getting word out and meeting new people. But I still really didn't have that website that I wanted. And I started an Etsy account in 2008 and it just sort of sat there and I'm like, okay, here we go. And I would try to make up the 13 tags and, I would make up whatever I could. Then you guys came along And I have tripled my sales in the time. And I haven't even really, I mean, you see my Etsy shop. I haven't even implemented all the things you guys have told me to implement. And I have probably tripled my sales on Etsy. And I feel like now, with all that coming together, I really have a presence of selling to people that like sitting in some Indian reservation in Oregon or something that, you know,
awesome.
or in California, or just, you know, people that I really don't know that are out of my, really far out of my reach, that don't live in my town.
Yeah.
And Marmalead has greatly helped me with that.
That's awesome. I'm super glad to hear that. So, and that's actually a perfect segue into the next thing we wanted to talk about too. One of the things that you mentioned in your write-up was finding success, and how you kind of tied that in with, you know, a shift in your thinking to having more positive thought.
Yes. I at one point in my life, I was the most negative thinker in the whole world. I was afraid of my own shadow. I didn't want to. I worried. And I kind of considered myself a starving artist, and I kind of became more concerned with having to get from point A to point B, and really didn't think that much about thriving. So I started taking, to the best of my human ability, all the negativity I could possibly take out of my thinking, my vocabulary, and my big thing is, I think the most offensive statement in the face of the earth right now is starving artist. That is just setting yourself up, and I won't hear that. I won't have that. And if anybody says that in my presence, I will very politely correct them. And, you know, we'll say, well, maybe that's not me. Maybe it's somebody else. I don't even really believe it's somebody else. I can't stress enough the power of thinking positive and thinking about thriving instead of just getting by. And again, I'm speaking from personal experience. In fact, it's interesting. The more I've thought about thriving, things like, and for example, Marmalead come along. You know, like I'm looking at this Etsy and I'm thinking, oh, this is great. And I'm really growing. I'm very happy with how I'm growing with my social media online classes, which, you know, help me immensely. But things start coming along. People start coming along. Things that you never thought about start coming along. When I started thinking positive, when I started, you know, not living in fear, but living in how can this work? Not how can this. How is this going to work? Not how is this going to fail? And not, you know, what if? Or I don't have enough. You know, maybe I don't have enough yarn to start this project. We'll start the project, and, you know, you can figure out how you're going to get the yarn.
Yeah.
You know, just. Positive thinking is so important.
That can be a difficult transition to make sometimes for people. Like, were there any tricks you used to do this, or is it really just a matter of being disciplined enough to catch yourself when you start to think negatively about something? Well,
it's that. There are a lot of tricks. I listen to a lot of YouTube videos from Louise Hay and from Abraham Hicks. Those are just some teachers that I listen to a lot. And there are a lot of them out there. And I don't know, those are just the two I listen to. And I'm, you know, there's so many out there. And I think it's just really learning for what works for you. And everybody's different. I believe everybody probably has a different path. But I have had to make a huge conscious effort, and which is not to say that I don't just go off on the deep end. Sometimes and just like, oh my gosh, this isn't going to work. I'm going to be late. Why am I even trying? It doesn't matter. You know, this isn't going to work. But I really catch myself, again, most of the time, not 100% of the time, maybe 80% of the time, I catch myself now.
Yeah.
But that probably is the single most important thing, because everything starts to fall into place. You know, I expect to sell. I expect to be sales. I don't get scared when I hear the ka-ching. I think I mentioned in the notes one time I heard the ka-ching, and I'm like, what the heck is that? So yeah, that is probably, if I have something to say today, that probably is the single most important thing is thinking positively.
Yeah.
Thinking why Etsy will work, not why it won't. And I suppose there are times when I suppose there are times when I can't imagine what the situation would be But I guess there are times when it just really won't work. But I just think of how it will, and think of how it will work, not how it might work or how, and don't think things like, oh, it probably won't work for me, because that was kind of my thinking at first. And it will work for me. It is working for me. It is completely changed in the last 3 or 4 months, completely. And I haven't even I've done just a few little things that you guys have told me to do.
That's awesome. I'm a big believer too in what you focus on expands. And if you're looking for the reason something won't work, I mean, you're going to find it. You're going to find what you're looking for. But if you focus on why it will work, well, that's awesome too, because that's what you're going to find. And I find that the world is just full of people that are doing things that shouldn't work. There are lots of people out there that say, no, you can't do that. That won't work. Well, they've been doing it for the last 20 years successfully. So go ahead and tell them why it doesn't work, but they're probably not listening. Right. It can be hard too to kind of stay away from, sources of negativity, right? Especially with the internet and everything. And you can just kind of walk into it in a virtual way. And if you're not conscious of it, like you're talking about, you might hang around there a little bit too long and let too many of those thoughts into your head. And then you got to shake them off and get back to the positive.
Right. I mean, I'm thinking back, I'm having a memory that I hadn't thought of in a while of a sewing machine repairman very early on coming in and saying, well, this machine can't possibly work. And I'm like, well, here's the stuff I just made on it. And if you would just make this go around again, it works. And, don't tell me that it doesn't work, because it clearly does. and all kinds of things like that. Think of, the why, how you're going to make it work. And it's easy. I mean, when I have relaxed, my life kind of became easy. And, it really, my life is easy now. It's easy. I try to make it hard, but it's really easy.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I like that. It's easy. And I think you're being realistic with it too, because you said it's not, the years aren't, you've been doing this forever, and the years aren't without their ups and downs, but whose aren't? No matter what you do, like the most, safe and stable things you could possibly do still have their ups and downs.
Right. Exactly.
But easy living's easy living, and that's awesome. Exactly.
One of the other things that you sent over to us in your write-up was a list of important tips that you think could be beneficial to people in all aspects of selling art, whether, it's eBay, Etsy, online, or not even online, just selling art in general. And I think these were fantastic. So would like to walk through some of these with you, and maybe you can embellish on these with us.
Okay.
But the first one that you wrote down is to do small bits for your store on a regular basis, and that they'll add up. Right.
Posting a few things at a time. And I believe that really helps with the Etsy algorithm too. I believe being consistent, as opposed to just doing it all in a mad rush, doing little bit, thinking of, little bits of designing new things along, doing thinking of little bits of I'm just doing this towel now, and then on the next one, I'm just doing this now. I'm doing the pineapple towel, and now just doing little bits instead of thinking, oh my goodness sakes, so here's an order of 60 pineapple towels. I'm going to be still sitting here 2 Christmases from now, and I'm going to get a charge back, which I've never gotten in my life, but just think, I'm doing this towel now, or I'm doing this design now. I'm doing this now. This is what I'm doing now. And I kind of got off topic a little bit, but obviously posting on Etsy, yes. Also on social media. Again, I keep talking about Maria and social media online onlineclasses.com, but she really teaches doing little bits. I mean, if you look at the whole of Facebook, or the whole of Instagram or the whole of Pinterest, you just go crazy.
Yeah, your
I
head will
mean,
spin.
and you're never done. And you guys keep saying that you're never done, and you never will be online in this business. There will always be something more, always something to catch up on. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I mean, even if you think about stuff with SEO, you have 100 listings in your shop as a seller, and it's you're gonna look at that and be like, oh man, I'm gonna sit down today and like do my SEO for everything. No, you're gonna want to take it in small chunks and do a little bit here, a little bit there till you get through it all.
And don't you think Etsy likes it that way too, a little better with the algorithm?
A lot of the things that they do with their algorithms seem to kind of lend well to that. They want to see constant activity in a shop. They don't want to see somebody come in, boom, update all their photos, all their SEO, renew everything, set up promoted listings, and then leave and not engage with Etsy for the next 4 months. They like to see that constant activity, to know the seller is there. And they're engaging with what they just put together. They're not just like trying it out to see how it goes and they're going to bounce,
Which makes sense because I could see one of the biggest fears with how many abandoned websites there are.
Yeah.
Right. And how easy it is to open an Etsy shop. I can see one of their big concerns being they have a shopper. They've spent a lot of time and money to get that shopper to Etsy. And then they go and they buy something from a store where that seller walked away from.
Yeah, they just check.
Yeah. And I see that online sometimes. Sellers will be like, oh my gosh, like I got a sale and then I didn't know. And next thing I know, like 3 months ago, I had the sale and like all these things happened along the way, including like there was a claim process and the money got refunded and all that stuff. That's an awful experience, like all around, right? Mm-hmm. Like it looks bad on Etsy because the shopper had a bad experience. The seller made a mistake. Like they've got to deal with that now. I mean, just all around. So I could definitely see why, you'd want to defend against that in a marketplace.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your next point, which you kind of mentioned in this one, is that it's important to be consistent with the listings that you have in your shop. You don't want to have, a bunch of random things that aren't related to one another. And the example that you gave was a shawl next to a fidget spinner.
I take that over, what you learn in one area of selling art goes into another. I mean, when I would do shows, people would come to me and say, well, why don't you take my grandmother's knitted doilies or, my grandfather carved this box. Why don't you take it with you and sell it? It wouldn't hurt anything. It doesn't take up much room. But, if it doesn't tell your story, it's really important. And I kind of carried that over from doing retail shows and, of course, wholesale shows also.
Yeah. I mean,
consistency, telling a story.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. When people are up there visiting your booth, they're there because they want to see what you have that's like the thing that attracted them to your booth in the first place. They're not want to be browsing over 100 different things in one booth. Exactly.
You're not a thrift shop.
Yeah.
And you're not a one-stop, not a one-stop. I am not one-stop shopping. I'm not one-stop shopping anywhere anywhere.
Mm-hmm. I'm not a fan of Walmart.
Makes sense.
Yeah, right, yeah. And, I'm going to appeal to people. I'm not going to appeal to everybody. I'm only going to appeal to the people that I appeal to. And this is something I hadn't really thought to throw in, but I've always wanted to and I guess this is another great thing about selling online. It goes to everywhere in the world, and it doesn't just like select zip codes.
Yeah.
And like we used to do a long time ago, is select a zip code and send a mailer out to it. You can have a person that can well afford your artwork, and if they don't like it, then you have a person with a lot of money that can afford your artwork that's not going to buy it. Mm-hmm. And then maybe you can have a person with a medium income or even maybe a low income that just loves your work, and maybe they're going to say, hey, can I make payments on this? I'm going to save up and I'm going to buy your work. But if a person doesn't like, and I say globally, one's work, if someone doesn't like my work, they're not going to buy it. My best friend is who's got this like sleek, like beige and black, beautiful, beautiful home. I made her something, and I didn't know what she was going to do with it, but I gave it to her as a gift at a very special occasion, and she hung it in the garage. And I thought, you know what? This is really an honor. I have actually made it to Tamla's garage. I mean, because she has nothing but black and gray and silver, and she doesn't like my work, but she respects my work. I do like being respected, and I'm not expecting everybody to like it, but I do kind of hope they respect it. But you know what? If they don't, then they don't belong in my positive thinking frame of mind, and they can just go on their merry way.
That's a great way to look at it.
Love it. That's a great rule.
Yeah. The next thing you mentioned is that photos are super important.
I know.
Not just with Etsy, though. You mentioned, too, that even getting into shows and stuff like that, it's really important to have your photos.
Yeah, and this is kind of a negative statement after my big speech about being positive all the time. Thorn in my side. Photos have always been a thorn in my side from the day I started art to there was when I was in high school, and there was a really great photographer in my hometown, and he handled my photographs really well. But after he passed away, that was the end of that. And I have struggled, and I sort of stumbled on by totally, and believe me, I'm talking totally by accident. And it was interesting. It was about the same time I got turned on to you guys from Marmalead, that I just happened to think, well, I'm just going to try this in my kitchen, on my kitchen floor. And there was a fluorescent light and a regular light. And I did not know that would make a perfect, that was a thing in photography, and it was a complete accident. So I have actually managed to come to a few good Etsy photos. And now I'm looking at my Etsy photos and realizing, you know what, it's already time to change them up, and I have no clue on what I'm going to do. So, but I do have a clue on what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep experimenting. I'm going to keep believing, and I know that perfect, the next perfect scenario, the next right thing is out there, and that is what I'm going to do. So I guess, I do know what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do. Just continue, in a little bit, do the next right thing, and it will work, and it will show itself.
Absolutely. You actually kind of led us into the next one here too, which is surround yourself with people who can do what you can't do or what you don't have time to do. So like Marmalead, QuickBooks, and you mentioned social media, onlineclasses.com.
And, people that can help you out, because I can't do it all. Nobody can. I think if they say they can, that they need to take a look. And again, I don't keep referring sometimes back to, the way some experience of the past, but I think they're kind of relevant. For instance, when I had I owned an art gallery for a while, and I thought, well, this is going to be great. I will just work in the art gallery, and between customers, I'll work on my art. Well, that doesn't work. You're going to do one or the other. I mean, it works a little bit, but if you're serious, what are you? I mean, I had to ask myself, what am I? Am I a gallery keeper, or am I an artist? And of course, that was a no-brainer. And it took a little while to make that segue, because I had, made some commitments to some other artists along the way, and had leases and responsibilities and all that kind of stuff. But finally, I realized one day that I was not a gallery keeper. And I took a month, and I said, I'm going to get out of this gracefully. And I took a month to get out, and I did. I was out of there in 30 days. And I was very happy that I was able to either, turn the commitment over to somebody else. I left it in very, very, very hands, and I'm very proud of it while I was there.
That's awesome. And I think that,
but I'm very glad I'm an artist now.
I think that taking, the time to do that kind of self-reflection is one thing, but then, just listening to it and being brave enough to follow it when it's like you're saying, it's something that they're two different things that you really enjoyed doing both of those. And so it's not always an easy decision, even when you have that kind of conversation with yourself and you discover, oh boy, I really should be focusing here. Even then, it's not easy to follow through with that and make the choice after that,
Well, and the instance was that I had taken a whole week off of the gallery, and I'd paid somebody to work it for me in my stead. And I went to Inman Park, which is a huge festival in Atlanta. And, I felt like everything I did in the gallery, nobody was ever happy. And I was, something was not quite right, because that was not what I was supposed to be doing. That's why it was never, it seemed like never's like not a day that went smooth. And because I was not doing what I was supposed to be doing. But then I went to Emmett Park, and everybody was complimenting me on my art. Everybody was happy. Everybody, was going smooth. I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. And I said, let's see, gallery, everybody miserable, selling art, everybody happy. Let me think. Okay, let's go with everybody happy. And so that's when I made that decision. However, the person that took it over was an excellent gallery keeper, just excellent, and thrived, absolutely thrived at it. So, yeah.
You made a note here too that we're supposed to ask you how you found your assistant.
Okay.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah. Yeah. This is, I have a shop assistant, and last Christmas Eve, I was coming from Atlanta back to my hometown, which my hometown is tiny, just absolutely tiny. I think there's like 900 people that live there. And there's this little road that I go on, this little peaceful country road that nobody else ever goes on. I mean, people live on it, but not many people. Okay. And the cemetery, the family cemetery where all my relatives are buried is there. And so, I always stop by and say hi. Another year's gone by. How's it going? Thanks for all the great memories you gave me. Thanks for being my family. Sorry, you're missing another Christmas and all this kind of stuff. And I was standing there, and I was, just thinking about my family, warm thoughts. And I looked up, and another car had pulled up. And in my entire life, I have never seen another person in that cemetery except during a funeral. And so we started chatting, and just out of the blue, and found out his wife was buried right next to my, my family plot. And we got to be really good friends. And he started emailing me he reached out through Facebook again, and we've gotten to be really good friends. And we're an item now. And he has been the perfect match for coming in and trimming all my threads. And that is a huge thing he does for me. And I will probably tell you that you can do these jams forever, and you'll never hear anybody say they got their assistant in the cemetery.
I believe.
Challenge accepted.
Wow.
That's awesome.
So I guess the moral of that is always be open, always be ready, always be, ready for whatever universe has to give you. And having somebody helping with shipping, and particularly with what I do, trimming the threads off this can be a monumental task. I know that sounds like such a simple thing to do, but another thing, I did not have this on the notes, but it kind of brings this up, is it's not in art production. It's about minutes and seconds. It's really not about hours. It's about how many minutes and kind of how many seconds something takes. Because, if you spend a lot of time shipping and trimming threads and, doing things that, that somebody else could do, it adds up. It's really about how can you save. Time is really money. And I really haven't understood that till the past few years, but it really is.
Makes sense. The next thing that you have on here is kind of a bunch of things all put together. First thing, follow your heart, which I think is great advice. Don't copy, which is also very great advice.
But
if somebody copies you, you say don't worry about it unless it costs you sales.
Right.
And the copycat,
I've never had that happen.
You haven't had that happen?
Yeah, they go away. I have not had that happen. That's another thing about this machine. I had, and nobody's really going to copy it. They really aren't. It would be such an enormous amount. I mean, I don't think anybody can do it, but maybe they could. I don't know, but they haven't. So we'll go with that.
Well, I'm glad you've never ran into that. That's good. Hopefully there's less and less of that going on across Etsy.
Yeah.
It's super unfortunate whenever it does happen, and very frustrating.
A lot of times they don't have that passion, you can tell.
Yeah.
Right.
People are in it. When people are in it for the money and they just copy something for the money, you can tell. You can tell.
Right.
And
you really
they either
can.
close up
That's
shop or they just half-ass it.
And then your next point too, we kind of already talked about this one too. But just to echo what we said before, you're saying don't ever, ever, ever fall into that starving artist mentality.
Right. Again, as I said earlier, that's the biggest thing I can say.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. I think if you can not do that, the rest will fall into place.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like already admitting defeat, right? You've already.
Right. Yeah.
This is where I am. This defines me,
Right.
Next one you mentioned, always show gratitude for sales. Write a note, and you wrap each paper towel in tissue paper. I'm sorry, not each paper towel. Each towel.
Yeah, each towel in paper in tissue paper. Yeah.
Yes.
I do, and I think that's kind of a common practice among Etsy. It is so important, and also draw on the outside of the boxes. Sometimes I'll say your cactus is here, your chicken is here, your flower is here, and also every once in a while I will write a personal handwritten note. Thank you so much. If it's somebody's ordered a lot of things, I will say multiple orders. I'll just write a complete separate note on some note paper printed with my artwork on it that just says thank you for your orders. We really appreciate it. You're a cool person, and so on and so forth. And, I think that kind of goes with the territory on Etsy.
Yeah, I think it goes a long way. I think when a lot of people are shopping on Etsy, even if they don't say it, that's kind of what they're hoping, is that they're getting a very personal thing from someone, and having a written note like that is a nice personal touch to let them know that's exactly what they got,
Right.
You mentioned chickens in your answer.
Right.
What's the deal? You have a chicken in your shop picture. What's the story with the chicken?
Her name is Lucy Fowler.
Okay.
And she is my main girl, and she is tattooed on my arm, and this is the best advertising. I hope you can see it.
That's awesome.
Nice.
And that's the best advertising I've ever done, was getting that tattoo. And I have a little story. I tell you what, you want to advertise your shop, get your logo tattooed. I mean, people everywhere, they stop me everywhere and ask me about Lucy. It's just such an amazing segue to here's my card. Check me out on Etsy.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. I like it.
Yeah, and I have a story that goes with her, and in the true spirit of one thing at a time, I want to do a blog about it so bad.
Yeah.
It's just one day soon, and I will, and I'm getting one by thing. I'm getting stuff done, and that's the thing soon up. That's getting onto the front burner. I don't know why I haven't done a blog, but I won't say why haven't I done a blog. I'll just eventually do one. So I'm not gonna beat myself up for not having done it already.
No, don't do that. It's
but she'll have the whole story about her and how she manages a trailer park in South Georgia, and all the other animals are in the trailer park, and she has to do stuff like collect rent, and she hates to do that, and but all the stuff you have to do when you manage a trailer park with all the wonderful people and speeders going through the park, and loud music, and people with stuff they're supposed to have, and people with colors that, like, the brightly painted trailer that the really conservative people next door don't like, and the whole thing.
It sounds like it's half written already.
Well, you know what? It's just sort of a matter of me getting the blog. Because I will, yeah. And you know what? Maybe you inspired me. Maybe I'll get that rocket and rolling after this jam here.
It sounds like it's going to be a good one. I like it already.
Thank you.
It's funny too. Some people put like their shop name on like a vinyl window decal, and I think you've totally one-upped them by getting a tattoo. Well, yeah. And I do. Best thing I ever did. Best advertised, and I didn't really think about it that much. Yeah. That was how it was gonna work. That it was gonna be advertising. I just I wanted Lucy on my arm, and my dad had passed away, and he was in a nursing home, and the money that they would not let the residents of the nursing home have money on them, so they would always have to go to the nurse's station and ask for money whenever they wanted to go do anything, and that didn't sit well with my dad at the very end. So he made a false bottom in his drawer when he passed away. And
when I was cleaning out his stuff after he passed away, I actually somehow rattled this money out. And I thought, well, what am I going to do with it? And I thought, I'm going to get a tattoo. And what am I getting? Okay, I'm going to get Lucy on my arm. So that's how the tattoo all came about.
That's awesome.
More promotion than you need on the jam, but you got it anyway.
No, that's a great story.
That's exactly the information we need right there.
How did you go? How did you guys go on before you do that story? Don't you think now like now my life is sort of complete now?
Kind of is. This is now the final episode because we can't do another one now.
Oh, yeah, you can. I'm sure you can.
I don't know, Richie. I think you're going to get Marmalead tattoos now.
You do. Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to see them on the next jam. I want you to have Marmalead tattoos on the next jam. Absolutely. That would be so cool. What a great idea.
We'll
seriously, you got to do it.
We have to now.
No,
I'm gonna be following up. Success at Marmalead. I'm gonna be writing. Where are the tattoos?
Where's the tattoos? I still haven't seen them yet.
Yeah, guys, where's the tattoos? I'm not letting up on it either.
Fair enough.
If I can do it, you guys can do it. I mean, you got it on your microphone there. You need it on your arm.
That's right. I'll just peel it off of here and stick it on my arm.
No.
Good try,
that's cheating. Gotta have the real thing.
That's close. Maybe I could find a pen somewhere.
Needle. Well, I'm here I can absolutely, positively here to testify that it works. It works better than anything I've ever done. I rarely go anywhere where somebody doesn't mention it, and always with a smile. Except for my aunt, the one that's always been so supportive, and she's horrified. But she's going to be 93 in a few weeks, and I just, she's my biggest fan and my biggest support. But she is not about the tattoo. But
hey, you can't win them all.
No, you can't win them all. But really, I'm kind of serious about you guys getting Marmalead tattoos. You should. You should. You really should. You can make it an anniversary celebration or something. Like when you're, whatever year. I think, you going into your 4th year now?
Yeah,
third or fourth year. You should go make it. That's a celebratory thing. Yeah. Go celebrate, get tattoos, and you will not be sorry. Always have business cards with you.
Well, next time Richie and I are out drinking, who knows what's going to happen.
There you go.
I can tell Gordon's on the fence here. He's really close to being convinced.
Yeah. And Richie, I'm sensing a little hesitance on your part, but I think I'm counting on Gordon here.
Your money should be on Gordon right here.
I don't think either of us have one, so it would be our first, I think.
Oh my goodness! No. Don't let this old lady over here beat you on the tattoos. Come on.
You already did.
Well, to take the focus off of that.
I think so. Yes, I think we're done with that.
Spin it right back around.
Yeah, spin it around. Get us back on track.
We were talking about your handwritten thank you notes and the tissue paper that you wrap the towels in.
Yes.
The next thing you mentioned then is that you also draw a few stars and hearts on the outside of the package that you send to people.
I do, and I will say things like your towel is here, your sweet tea towel is here, your chicken towel is here, and I'll sometimes draw the thing on the outside of the box, and so they get excited. I have been a little cautious about that. That has not happened. But I always assume that anybody could be buying their item for a gift. And it might, not necessarily just thinking about drawing on the package, but just altogether, like would not go on Facebook and say, so-and-so, even if it's somebody I maybe knew, just, this is going out to so-and-so, because it could be for a gift, but I still on most of the packages, I'll draw, stars or hearts or something.
Nice.
To make them excited. Yay. It's a big day when you get a package.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can't think of the last time I got a package that had something actually drawn on the outside of it,
Yeah. Yeah.
The next thing you mentioned is asking for critiques of your shop. And you mentioned our Rock Your Photos report that we offer through the app. So have you gotten lots of shop critiques in the past then?
Well, as far as shop critiques, I just will ask people, what do you think about my shop?
Mm-hmm.
People that I know. And I'm like, and I always ask people that I know will be honest. And I'm like, and please save all the well, I hate to tell you this and I don't know how to tell you, just tell me. I'm not asking for compliments.
Mm-hmm.
And I always started out by saying I'm not asking for compliments. And I do ask for a lot of people that I respect, mostly people that I know, to critique the shop. Mm-hmm. And I will have to confess that I have not done the rock your photos. I will. But I have not.
It's okay.
I have
we won't
not.
fault you for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Can we just gloss over that then?
Sure. The next thing you mentioned is that every sale is an opportunity for advertisement. So
yes.
Tell us how you take advantage of that.
I sew a label with my information on it, my website, my phone number. Is it on? I think, just my name, Miss Mavis Funhouse, my website, and my phone number. And there is no excuse for anybody not to be able to find me. And I sew it in there. So, they can, and that is so important. And I can't do it on my wholesale. I do a Made in America label when I say for wholesale.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that I've gotten orders. I know I've gotten orders that people that have seen the website. And I also want to mention too that I think a lot of people do this, but I linked MissMavisFunHouse.com to Etsy. So when you type that in, it goes to my Etsy shop.
Yeah.
And I think there's several other .coms that I don't even remember, URLs, I don't even remember what they are now, but that go there. But anyway,
it's smart. It's smart. If Etsy ever changes the way they link to shops or anything like that, you can always correct for that with your own custom URL. And oftentimes it's easier for people to remember, just that one domain instead of Etsy.com/shop/
Right. And when people get there, they trust Etsy.
Yeah.
They trust the checkout system, and it's easy. And even if they never bought on Etsy, it's easy to maneuver. Even for people that aren't millennials like me, I mean, you can figure it out. So, and you want to make it as easy, and you want to do as many on social media, do as many actionable clicks as you possibly can back to your Etsy store. So, I mean, because so many people like me have ADD, and they say, "Oh, I'm about to buy this fabulous thing on Etsy. Something shiny over here. Oh, there's something. Oh, what was that? Oh, I can't remember what I was doing over here. Oh well, So if people don't do it immediately, they're not going to do it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true on social media. I think I read something that the lifetime of a tweet is usually about 3 or 30 seconds or something like that. That if people don't see it within that time period, they're probably not going to see it.
Right.
Unless it goes viral, then a lot of people see it. But chances of that are pretty low. The last tip that you have for everyone is that free shipping rocks. Free shipping,
and I started doing that when what's the new CEO's name? What's his name?
I can't remember. Chad. I don't remember the new guy's name. Do you?
The new guy did anyway, it doesn't matter. The new guy,
Silverman.
I know. I was depending on you for this information. The new guy. There's Google.
I was going to say John or something. I don't know why I blanked out.
Anyway, our new guy, our new head honcho, our new big wheels did a video. I'm trying to think what it's Etsy platform I saw it on. I guess it was in one of the emails or one of the newsletters. And that was one of the tips he gave. And I thought, this is pretty easy. And also it factored in really, for those that are selling wholesale, and for me selling wholesale, it factored in really easy, and it's sort of complicated. And we really weren't talking about wholesale today, but the shipping, including the shipping, just going up in the price a little and including the shipping worked out really well for me. It's easier all around.
Yeah.
It's easier to list. It's easier to deal with. It's just, and people really see the word free and they just think, wow, free shipping has really worked great.
That's awesome. That's a good tip. I like it. And that's all of them. We spun through all of them with you. You had a
You
bunch.
spun through all of them. You did.
Yeah,
You did.
You had a bunch of great ones.
Thank you.
Thanks for putting those together, and thanks for taking the time
Thank you.
to chat with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for doing what you guys do. It means so much to me. It means so much to so many people. I can understand green, yellow, and red. Sometimes it's hard for me to go through and just discern a lot of words and a lot of numbers. Well, sometimes all the time it's hard for me to go through and discern a lot of words and a lot of numbers. But you guys, I have no idea how you've done it. It's beyond me how you've done what you've done. And I am, and many, many, many other people are so grateful.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That
Thank
means
you.
a lot to us. Thanks.
Okay.
All right. Once again, if you haven't checked out her shop yet, it's Miss Mavis Funhouse
Funhouse.
at Etsy. And this was Mavis Stevens. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mavis. It was fantastic.
Thank you, guys. It was fantastic.
And for everyone else, we will catch you guys next time on Etsy Jam.